Hi guys, Sky here. We have Stormy here.
Hello.
So the new episode of Mandalorian season 2 came out yesterday, and we're just gonna give our thoughts on it, sort of what we thought about it, and like how it plays into the larger aspect of the whole plot. So, yeah, let's get into it. So, Stormy, what did you think about this episode?
I think it's the best episode of the season so far. I mean, obviously we're getting into spoiler territory, but um the inclusion of the startup of the episode was good. Him finding more Mandalorians like being saved. Like I think that was a really good start. Um Also introducing what was previously an important character, Bo-Katan, and like what I assume is two other semi-important characters later on in the third one. It's interesting that we got to see that in live action format, and it's interesting that we kind of get the start of okay, he's on his way to finding what he needs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I thought, like many, this was the best episode we've gotten this season so far. Not just 'cause, like, it's the newest episode and stuff, but, like, I feel like it adds more to the whole plot. Like, 'cause the first two episodes, like, the first episode kind of added to the plot, but not really. The first two episodes were just more like adventures, like, on their own. Like, and then this episode, like we actually are getting a step further to like um meeting a Jedi, as they say, or like some other being who can use the Force. And if you've seen the episode, you know that they refer to Ahsoka. So that's exciting.
And I think
Um yeah.
it goes for a lot of points to say that I actually really I know this is a little bit simpler of an effect, but I really like the costumes of the new Mandalorians. I feel like that was a standout point for me. Like
Yeah, yeah, I thought Bo-Katan, like her costume was really good and like if you told me that was her, like it looks like her.
yeah, and I thought that this was an interesting chance for us to get to see a little more action. I felt like this had more action than most of the episodes of this season, and I would even go as far as to say some of the episodes of the old season. Like I feel like the way that they chose to do this was really good, and I like that they chose a slightly darker approach. Just like the storytelling. Obviously, you have the officer shoot out the two other officers that are on the ship to try to make it crash. Which, honestly, I was surprised that they did. It being Disney and all. I don't know how you felt about that, but I definitely feel like there was a lot of surprises in the episode, and like the way that they chose to tell the story of them stealing the ship and what the deal was with the new Mandalorians that he met, and then them saving him. It was really interesting just to see that that type of bond. I don't know if that's the right way to explain it.
Yeah. Adding on to what you said, I'm not sure if you remember this, but when they're like in the um ship and they're like fighting, and then like when they get to the like final like the I don't know, I guess the general of that fleet, um, and he just like sort of like sacrifices himself. So with the like electricity in his mouth, um, I didn't really think Disney would do that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it seemed, dare I say that it seemed more mature than the average episode, but it seemed like they kind of just said, okay, we're gonna allow this to happen, and it was done in a pretty like interesting way. It wasn't just like an off-screen kind of death; it was like mostly on-screen. I mean, obviously, you don't see his physical body drop; you just hear it, but
Yeah,
it was interesting the way that they chose to do it also because like again like I said the storytelling plot of this episode was a little bit deeper at least in my opinion. I mean, we kind of got to see a new side of Mando a little, like more with the actiony, more like less reserved type. And
Yeah, sorry, I just want to add on there. If you notice, we sort of see how Din sort of places in the Mandalorian culture compared to like Bo-Katan and like her those type of people. Because if you notice, like they're not really like they are Mandalorians, but they're way different than
yeah,
Din and how he was raised.
I like how he sees them as like kind of disrespectful, and they're like, oh, your clan were a bunch of, I don't remember the word she used, but she just basically says they're disrespectful and they're not to Mandalorian code. But another thing that I was gonna bring up with that is, I have a feeling that we're gonna get to see more Mandalorians in the series, which I'm excited to see, mainly because we might get to see other clans, and that's kind of a side note to mention. But we've seen pretty much two different clans at this point in the series, which is kind of like a little daunting because we might get to see, Siege of Mandalore type stuff. I don't know if they're gonna go into that, but it's
Yeah,
just
I mean,
interesting.
in this episode, they just barely referenced it. Like, they didn't show any flashback sequences, but like, I mean, I could see them like adding on to that later on, and I'm curious to see if they're gonna bring back, because we know Bo-Katan is looking for her dark saber, so I'm wondering if that's gonna be for like the season finale, or if that's gonna be a plot for season 3. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and it's interesting also because we don't know how long the Mandalorian is supposed to last. So if they take this the right direction and they make the whole Mandalore arc, and they make, obviously getting the saber back and all that, that's looking for a pretty long list of episodes. I mean, obviously they wouldn't do either one of those things in one episode, so it would probably be a pretty big build up. But a point that I was gonna make was, I thought it was interesting how they kind of looked up to him as like help kind of thing, instead of just like looking at him as an equal. I mean, you see in the episode they're like ways of helping. I honestly thought, like, when they were first introduced, I knew who it was just by the armor, when Bo-Katan was introduced. But I thought it was
Yeah, me
interesting.
too.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting the way that they were introduced. It was like they might think that he's like more helpful than they realized, that type of thing. Because they kind of seem to treat him like, kind of like a willing like commander. Like, oh yeah, we'll be done. When they save the child. If I don't know if you got that vibe too, where like they were just like, yeah, we'll
Kind
save
of.
him. Yeah,
Um, I felt this is what I got, but I felt like Bo-Katan seemed more like edgy, I guess,
yeah,
and um Mando or like Din, he seemed more like, I guess you could say like he's more formal and strict to like the old ways of the Mandalorian,
mhm,
because like that's how he was raised, and like I feel like because he lost his parents and stuff, and like I feel like he suffered a lot, so I think that has something to do with it. Like, I don't think he's just like that because of the Mandalorian way.
yeah. And another point that I was gonna bring up is when you see him retrieve or sorry, when you see Baby Yoda with the kid of the spawn, I feel like that's hinting towards like what side of the Force he'll go to. I know that's a little far fetched, but we talked about it in the last video where like him eating the spawn and then like making them go towards him and the canister. To me, that kind of says that he might walk the path of between the line because he did something that was inherently bad and good. And you see him play with the frog spawn, which I think as a plot device, I think that was a really good way to say like, oh, he's innocent but he still understands what he's doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I mean, we don't really know how their species work, like intelligence wise, because we've never really explored like the Yoda or whatever the species is. Um, so yeah, I mean, like you were telling me, earlier, is that like, what if they use like a sort of twist where like Baby Yoda turns out to be like part of the dark side or something?
And I think it's a good point to also mention, going back to the Mandalorian stuff. like it was interesting to kind of see how they paced the episode. I know that's kind of a lighter note, but I feel like the pace of that episode was a little bit faster than like.
I'm Yeah, but I mean, that has a large part to do with it that this was the shortest episode we've gotten so far. It was only like
Mhm.
35 minutes long. So
Yeah, and but it
maybe
it
that's why.
it feels like maybe they're kind of going for quality over quantity. I could be wrong on that, but the first two episodes to me were like eh, and this episode was really good. And it also feels like with the whole Mandalorian stuff, like I feel like I would want to see that in the show further. Would you? Seeing Mandalorian stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, I do, and I feel like we are gonna get that because I feel like the whole like Ahsoka thing that Bo-Katan was talking about. I feel like it's gonna go into more sort of like how do I say it? Like other sort of realms we haven't explored in this Mandalorian like timeline
Hmm.
because I feel like it's gonna go more deeper into the lore of like everything.
And I feel like kind of more off of a closing statement, at least for me. I kind of feel like it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out. That being just because of the pace, like I said, and because of like what they've already introduced us. I'm assuming the next episode will probably be the build up to finding Ahsoka, or will be finding Ahsoka. I don't know how the pace of that episode is gonna work, but I feel like going forward, there's a lot of positives and there's very few negatives in that episode.
Yeah, I know that the upcoming episode, like the synopsis that was revealed before the episode comes out is that like Mando is gonna go reunite with old allies. So I'm assuming this is the episode we see in the trailer where we get Carl Weathers' character and Cara Dune.
Hmm. And
And also we know that the upcoming episode is directed by Carl Weathers, so I'm wondering if that episode is going to be a separate storyline or if it's going to be in continuation to like finding Ahsoka. I don't know.
I mean, I think it would be interesting because obviously we already know that they're building up towards bigger plots, but like it I feel like it would be interesting if we got to see a little bit of a side plot here and there, especially for his culture and whatever he's trying to do on top of fighting Ahsoka. I mean, obviously we already know that they mentioned her name. It was a name drop, so we know she's coming up, but we don't know the pace of it. So I think it would be interesting just to like figure out and see which direction they take it. Because I mean, you have to look at like episode 1, 2, and obviously last season, and we know the pace of episodes are fairly quick. So.
Yeah, my assumption is that like obviously the main plot is like finding Baby Yoda like background and like where he is from, all that. But I feel like a larger plot we're gonna get like along with that is maybe like um Din like he's gonna see sort of like the larger scope of the universe because like I feel like he's been at least how they've like perceived the character to us like he's sort of closed in like this shell around him like he doesn't really know what's going on. Did you get that also?
Yeah, I also maybe got a sense of insecurity. I don't know if that's like what I would describe it as, but like it definitely feels like oh, he's constantly worried about the child. He doesn't really have much else to him. He's constantly worried. He's constantly trying to do things obviously with the plot as well as like, side plot where it's like he's always painted out to be this like really reserved person. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to say it cuz like I feel like this season we might get more like I feel like he's going to see like the larger scope of things like if they meet Ahsoka and like, because he doesn't know what a Jedi is apparently. Like, as he says in this episode, like he doesn't know what Jedi are. So like, I feel like that's gonna like maybe help him see like the larger scope of like the past and like the current timeline he's living in. And yeah, I think that's what we're gonna see.
Any other thoughts, ideas, or concerns that you want to bring up?
This is just like a little sort of Easter egg. I don't know if any of you catched it, but this episode was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, who you might know from Jurassic World, but um so her dad directed Apollo 13 back in 1995. And Stormy, remember that like um opening like sort of sequence where the Razor Crest ship is dropping into the hemisphere, into
Yeah,
the planet?
yeah,
Oh, if you play like that quick sequence with like Apollo um 13, there it's like a little nod because like that was her dad who made that movie.
yep.
Not sure if any of you catch that. But yeah, just a little cool Easter egg. Um but yeah, this episode overall was really good and I can't wait to see what's coming up next. And we'll see you guys next time.